Welcome to a journey into the darkest corners of ancient mythology. Have you ever wondered what truly terrified our ancestors? Not monsters or natural disasters, but gods so brutal their very names were whispered in fear. Today, we're uncovering the 10 most horrifying deities you've likely never heard of. From Mesopotamian plague lords to Aztec gods of flayed skin, these divine figures didn't just demand worship, they demanded blood, suffering, and absolute submission. If you think Zeus or Odin were intense, wait until you meet these forgotten terrors. Strap in. This is the untold history of humanity's most merciless gods. Let's begin with Nergal, the Mesopotamian god of plague and war. While most know of Ishtar or Marduk, Nergal operated in the shadows, spreading disease and chaos. But here's the shocking truth. Ancient texts describe how cities struck by epidemics would send entire families into the desert to die, believing Nergal demanded human sacrifice to halt the plague. One tablet from Nineveh details how priests burned victims alive inside temples, their screams thought to feed the god's hunger for suffering. Even other deities feared him. Legends say Nergal once stormed the underworld, overthrew its queen Ereshkigal, and claimed her throne through sheer brutality. Imagine living in a world where the only hope against a plague was sacrificing your loved ones to a god who thrived on agony. Next, we turn to Tezcatlipoca, the Aztec god of night and sacrifice. Forget everything you know about Quetzalcoatl. Tezcatlipoca was the true nightmare of Mesoamerican mythology. His name means smoking mirror, referencing the obsidian mirror he wore instead of a foot, which he used to peer into souls and expose hidden sins. But his most horrifying ritual? The Tlacaxipahualistli festival, where captured warriors were flayed alive over 20 days. Priests would wear the victims' skins for weeks, dancing through streets while the raw, bleeding flesh rotted beneath them. Ancient accounts claim Tezcatlipoca demanded 250,000 sacrifices during the dedication of a single temple. And here's the twist. He wasn't evil. He was worshipped as a necessary force of balance, proving even horror had divine purpose. Now prepare for Chernobog, the Slavic black god of destruction. While Belobog, the white god, represented light, Chernobog embodied chaos, famine, and despair. Medieval chronicles describe how villagers would leave rotten food as offerings, believing goodness would anger him. But the darkest secret? During harsh winters, communities practiced Volkver Aura rituals where elders would sacrifice infants to Chernobog, burying them under village foundations to strengthen the earth. One 12th century text chillingly notes, "The black god drinks the tears of mothers, and the land grows fertile with their sorrow." Unlike Satan, Chernobog wasn't a fallen angel. He was an equal force to good, making his cruelty part of the universe's design. Fourth is Totec, the Aztec flayed one. This god didn't just accept human sacrifice, he wore it. During spring festivals, victims were skinned alive, and priests donned their peeling flesh for 20 days, symbolizing renewal through agony. But here's the detail that will haunt you. The skins were often sewn onto the priests' bodies while still warm, causing infections that led to gruesome deaths. Victims were chosen for their perfection, young men with unblemished skin, because Totec demanded beauty in suffering. Archaeologists have found temple floors soaked in blood residue, proving these weren't just myths. Imagine the terror of knowing your flawless skin could doom you to become a god's living garment. Fifth, meet Era, Mesopotamia's god of mayhem. While Nergal brought plague, Era enjoyed destruction. The Era epic describes him convincing other gods to unleash war, famine, and pestilence just for entertainment. His most infamous act? tricking the sun god Shamash into starting a global flood worse than Noah's, drowning entire civilizations to cleanse the world. But the real horror? Era's priests practiced self-mutilation, cutting their faces with shards of pottery to mimic his beauty of chaos. One tablet warns, "When Era laughs, cities burn. When he smiles, rivers run red." This wasn't a god of balance. He was ancient mythology's purest embodiment of senseless violence. Sixth is Mictlantecutli, the Aztec god of the dead. Forget gentle guides like Hades. This skeletal deity ruled Mictlan, the lowest underworld layer, where souls endured 4 years of trials. But his most grotesque ritual? The Holocaust of the tongues. Victims' tongues were torn out and fed to his dog-headed minions, as Mictlantecutli believed silence purified the soul. Archaeologists discovered a temple chamber filled with thousands of severed tongues preserved in lime. Even worse, newborns who died were thought to become his eternal servants, forced to gather bones for future humans. In Aztec belief, death wasn't an end. It was a job description in a god's torture empire. Seventh, we confront Veles, the Slavic god of the underworld. While Perun struck lightning from the sky, Veles lurked beneath, embodying chaos, magic, and betrayal. His most chilling legend? The Battle of the Serpent, where he stole Perun's children and hid them in swamps, forcing the sky god to wage endless war. But here's the twist. Veles demanded animal sacrifice, with a catch. Offerings had to be stolen, teaching followers that evil thrived on broken trust. Medieval texts describe how villagers would sabotage neighbors' farms to appease him, believing Veles rewarded betrayal. Unlike Western devils, Veles wasn't punished for his chaos. He was respected, proving Slavic mythology saw darkness as equally vital to existence. Eighth is Namtar, Mesopotamia's demon god of disease. Serving as Ereshkigal's vizier in the underworld, Namtar didn't just spread plagues, he personalized them. Cuneiform tablets list 60 specific illnesses he assigned, from flesh-eating boils to paralysis that mimicked death. But his most terrifying power? Name-based curses. If Namtar learned your true name, he could inflict tailored suffering, like a mother whose child developed symptoms matching her secret guilt. One prayer begs, "Do not let Namtar hear my name, for he turns breath into poison." Unlike modern viruses, this god didn't spread disease randomly. He chose victims like a predator selecting prey. Ninth is Mara, the Slavic goddess of nightmares. While Western cultures fear boogeymen, Slavs dreaded Mara, who rode invisible horses through the night. Her victims would wake paralyzed, feeling her sit on their chests, a phenomenon now called sleep paralysis. But ancient texts reveal darker rituals. Mothers would place iron knives under infants' beds to ward her off, believing she stole souls through dreams. The most disturbing account. A 10th century chronicle describes villagers finding corpses with horse hooves burned into their chests, proof Mara had ridden them to death. In Slavic lore, nightmares weren't illusions. They were real attacks by a goddess who fed on terror. Finally, we arrive at Huhueteotl, the Aztec old fire god. While Xiuhtecutli represented sacred fire, Huhueteotl embodied its destructive side. His temples featured volcano-shaped altars where victims were burned alive as gifts. But his most horrifying innovation, the fire baptism. Children were held over flames until their skin blistered, then doused in cold water to cleanse them, a ritual that often killed them. One Spanish conquistador wrote, "The air reeked of charred flesh, yet parents cheered as their babies screamed." Huhueteotl wasn't worshipped out of love. He was feared as an unstoppable force, proving even fire's warmth had a god who preferred its scorching. If these gods of ancient terror have captivated you, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because next week we're exploring the forbidden rituals that kept these deities satisfied. Drop a comment below. Which of these brutal gods shocked you the most? Was it Nergal's plague sacrifices, Tezcatlipoca's flayed dancers, or Chernobog's infant offerings? And remember, in the shadows of history, some myths aren't just stories, they're warnings. Until next time, stay curious, but maybe keep the lights on.